Wonderful day, wonderful day, wonderful day. This is your neighborhood sensei Fouché, telling all y'all stay woke. Relax. Take notes. How are we going to begin this? Let's begin it like this. I'm not a messiah. I'm not the most scholared. I don't have a bunch of PhDs. I'm not someone that thinks he's better than you. I'm not a follower of organized religion. True. Am I an atheist? Probably. More than likely. It really just depends on your train of belief and your understanding of definitions, as well as understanding history. I believe myself to be extremely smart. Am I smarter than you? I don't know. I know how smart I am now compared to my yesterdays. And through that honor and highest of belief in my ability to think, comprehend, and research, I think that makes me extremely passionate and assertive. Or beyond think, I know that makes me passionate and extremely assertive. Have I been through the worst of experiences out of anyone? That's debatable. I mean, you get killed by a knife, killed by a gun, killed by a fork, killed by a poisonous needle. I mean, what difference does it make? You know what I'm saying? Dead is dead. You know, one person's trauma, another person's trauma. I mean, it's just trauma. And when you have all sins used equally and consistently through the character con who we've been identifying, I mean, yeah, what difference does it make? When it comes down to experience, yeah, I've been through a lot of personal setbacks, struggle, depression, addiction, a lot of devaluing and lack of self-worth. I've been studying and following different ideologies, more in confusion in the past, but soaked up a lot of very interesting things and going along with life lessons and extreme setbacks. I've realized and hit a specific spot of sparking the evolution of enlightenment. And I am a more serious and astute researcher these days as opposed to yesterday's. So in the now, you know what I'm saying, I've been prepared to comfortably share and speak what I'm learning. You know, I consider myself a master student than a teacher. You know what I'm saying? I state that a lot. You know, I always learn. I'm always in the aspect of learning more and more. And, you know, when I'm going along with these passages with you, I am evolving along with you, you know, to my degree of being greater. I can't answer what degree it relates for you, but for me, you know, this sharing builds me to a higher level of one. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm able to define in specification the underlying meanings behind this symbolism and literature that they use to explain something simply deepest within you. And that's what I'm doing, is sharing and learning in unison and building. You know, this is communion, you know, and for me to be enlightened, it is in my aspiration to radiate, you know what I'm saying, and project. And that's what we doing. That's what this fellowship here is. This is, you know, connecting in fellowship and communion and information. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, it's not about what you don't know. It's about what you want to know. Now, Eckhart Tolle, you know, he's a renowned studier into psychology. And, you know, let's read a little bit about Eckhart Tolle. Spiritual teacher and author Eckhart Tolle was born in Germany and educated at the universities of London and Cambridge. When he was 29, a profound inner transformation radically changed the course of his life. He devoted the next few years to understanding, integrating, and deepening that transformation, which marked the beginning of an intense inward journey. Later, he began to work in London with individuals and small groups as a counselor and spiritual teacher. Since 1995, he has lived in Vancouver, Canada, for those who are unaware where Vancouver is at. Eckhart is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Power of Now, which we're covering now, and the highly acclaimed follow-up, A New Earth, which are widely regarded as two of the most influential spiritual books of our time. Eckhart's other works include Stillness Speaks, a book designed for meditative reading, and Practicing the Power of Now, which consists of selections from The Power of Now. Eckhart's profound yet simple teachings have already helped countless people throughout the world find inner peace and greater fulfillment in their lives. At the core of the teachings lies the transformation of consciousness, a spiritual awakening that he sees as the next step in human evolution. An essential aspect of this awakening consists in transcending our ego-based state of consciousness. This is a prerequisite not only for personal happiness, but also for ending the violent conflict endemic on our planet. Eckhart is a sought-after public speaker who teaches and travels extensively throughout the world. And that's Mr. Eckhart Tolle. And there's, a few other books that I have. Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. The Courage to be Disliked. The Psychology of Money. And I'm not going to go over the specific authors. The Art of Thinking Clearly. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I mean, those are on the psychological side of part of the collection. And, that's what I'm about. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we sharing. So let's start to get more into this reading of now. And we're into chapter 3. Moving Deeply into the Now is the name of the chapter. The problems of the mind cannot be solved on the level of the mind. Like basically, you have to go into that submerged, deeper self because the common character, the character Khan. The comic Khan, he's the one that runs the mind right now. So your problems can't be solved by him because he's not he's problem based, not solution oriented. Studying the complexities of the mind may make you a good psychologist, but doing so won't take you beyond the mind, just as the study of madness isn't enough to create sanity. So if you are someone that is a psychologist or follows psychology to a high degree, if you are in your ego state of mind more than your true self, then all of your logic, all of your advice, it's really only going to be worldly based or exterior based. You know what I'm saying? So the person is only going to be helped to a temporary degree of temporary pleasures, if we covered in the last just finished chapter. So you could go back into the podcast and go through the read along to catch back up to where we at now. But we're going to keep moving forward because we're not trying to get stuck on psychologists, because they do serve a great purpose, but they serve a greater purpose if you understand the direction of where you need to go and use them as a very strong assistant if they are capable of dealing more within than on the outside of you. The ego's needs are endless. It feels vulnerable and threatened, and so lives in a state of fear and want. Lives in a state of fear and want. The ego's needs are endless. It feels vulnerable and threatened, and so lives in a state of fear and want. Once you know how the basic dysfunction operates, there is no need to explore all its countless manifestations. No need to make it into a complex personal problem. Once you understand how this comic con works, you don't have to overthink it. You know what I'm saying? You start to realize, that it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it walks like a duck, talks like a duck. It is a duck. You know what I'm saying? So the ego, of course, loves that. It is always seeking for something to attach itself to in order to uphold and strengthen its illusionary sense of self. And it will readily attach itself to your problems. Basically, like, a lie is always attached to a lie. You attach one lie to another lie, and that's, temporary comfortableness until the lie gets broken, because the lie, it's a weak string, so it's eventually going to get broken. But, bad likes bad. Liars hang out with other liars, you know what I'm saying? Because when they hang around truthful people, they feel limited because they can't lie. They have to change from being a liar, but if they want to continue to be a liar, then they have to be around other dishonest people, whether those people know for them to be dishonest or not. And the same thing in the reverse, where you would know of their dishonesty or maybe not. But, there's enough of what seems to be to say that it probably actually is. This is why, for so many people, a large part of their sense of self is intimately connected with their problems. Once this has happened, the last thing they want is to become free of them. That would mean loss of self. There can be a great deal of unconscious ego investment in pain and suffering. It's like, you don't really want to solve the problem because you're so comfortable in living in that state that you say that you want change, but at the same time, if something changes, like, what's going to happen? You know what I'm saying? Because more than likely, you'll think that because the way your mind is geared into the negative, that there's going to be something even more negative behind what's already negative. And the delusion of time. Time and mind are inseparable. You know what I'm saying? You get trapped into the before and what hasn't been, and then you a zombie. You know what I'm saying? You lost within the concept of, timeless. And you put yourself in the factor of time by trapping yourself into non-existence. When, time is ever ending, endless in, its existence. Remove time from the mind and it stops unless you choose to use it. To be identified with your mind is to be trapped in time. The compulsion to live almost exclusively through memory and anticipation. The past and what hasn't happened. You're hoping it would happen, but it ain't happened. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you caught, because you can't deal with the now. You thinking about what used to be and what you hope will happen, so that way the now you don't have to deal with, for whatever that may be. We ain't going to go into grabbing too many straws at this moment. This creates an endless preoccupation with past and future, and an unwillingness to honor and acknowledge the present moment and allow it to be. Hard cough. I need to clear my throat. Let me clear my throat. Time isn't precious at all, because it is an illusion. What you perceive as precious is not time, but the one point that is out of time, the now. Precious is always the moments. Like you always say, yeah, that was a good, that memory, when we talk about the word nostalgia, and I don't even like nostalgia, because nostalgia keeps you trapped into the past. Instead of creating more moments, you just stuck on one specific moment. And that moment, it means so much beyond any other moment that you ignored or could possibly be. That's why I never manifested, because you so stuck into your misery that one little thing is the only moment that you choose to recognize and ignore everything around it, because you just confused by being in the zombie effect of living in the past and hoping for something that hasn't come yet. Why is it the most precious thing? Firstly, because it is the only thing. It's all there is. Like right now, at this moment, with every word, I have to put the most accuracy and attention to what I'm reading, because I don't know what the next 10 minutes is going to bring. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I'm hyper excited to be specific and itemize this information. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Do you think you ever will? Is it possible for anything to happen or be outside the now? The answer is obvious. Is it not? The answer is obvious, is it not? Nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. And if you're confused, the thing that happened in the past, when it was the past, it was the present at the time. You know what I'm saying? And you chose to live that moment, but then you chose not to live a bunch of other moments for whatever reason of being lost or trapped in the aspect of zombieism in time. But the past at that time was the now. But it's no longer the now, it's the past. So why are you still connected to it? Because that specific thing isn't gonna happen again. Not exactly the same way that it did at that time, because that time is gone. No longer is there. It's through. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. Again, nothing ever happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. When the future comes, and if something happens, it'll be now at that moment. But you don't know, because we're not there. What you think of as the past is a memory trace stored in the mind. You know what I'm saying? Almost like you on the computer and you saved a folder. No different than all those pictures and photos that we do these days. Used to be photo albums. Now you have a flash drive, or you store it on your hard drive. Stored in the mind of a former now, the past. When you remember the past, you reactivate a memory trace, and you do so now. The future is an imagined now, a projection of the mind. When the future comes, it comes as the now. When you think about the future, you do it now. Past and future obviously have no reality of their own, just as the moon has no light of its own. It needs the sun, but can only reflect the light of the sun. So are past and future only pale reflections of the light, power, and reality of the eternal present. Their reality is borrowed from the now. Again, it said the moon can't really illuminate without the sun. So the past could never be without the now at that time, and the future can't be what it is until it becomes now. The now is the light. Woo! The now is the light. The essence of what I am saying here cannot be understood by the mind. Can't be understood by the common character, because, he wants to move you all over the place, because if you focus on the now, that's your enlightenment. That's your freedom. That's your key past the lock, the trap. The moment you grasp it, there is a shift in consciousness from mind to being, from time to presence. Now, instead of zombieism. Suddenly, everything feels alive, radiates energy, emanates being. The reason why some people love to engage in this dangerous activity, such as mountain climbing, car racing, and so on, although they may not be aware of it, is that it forces them into the now, the rush, the adrenaline. I mean, in a negative aspect, that's why addicts are addicts. You know what I'm saying? Because that intense feeling dismisses what they don't want to face, and then they, wind up trapped in zombieism. You know what I'm saying? Because of whatever happened, they're traumatizing themselves with the addiction and hoping for something to move past their addiction, but they never will because they are trapped and blinded by what they're using in the now. That intensely alive state that is free of time, free of problems, free of thinking, free of burden of the personality. It doesn't want to face anything. In the now, in the absence of time, all your problems dissolve, because when you deal with it, then it's going to move forward. If you face the now, then it's going to deal with itself, and then you don't have to worry about that problem. That problem doesn't have to continue to linger and become greater from its initial problem. Suffering needs time. It cannot survive in the now. Basically, when you deal with it, it's done. If you continue to hang on to it and not deal with it, then that's when you suffer. And then that's the trap of time. Are you getting it yet? Are you getting it yet? Are you getting it yet? Time is what keeps the light from reaching us. There is no greater obstacle to God than time. Break the old pattern of present moment denial and present moment resistance. Make it your practice to withdraw attention from past and future whenever they are not needed. Step out of the time dimension as much as possible in everyday life. If you find it harder to enter the now directly, start by observing the habitual tendency of your mind to want to escape the now. Basically, it's like really focus on your thoughts of you really don't want to feel this way. Because if you really focus on you really don't want to feel this way, and you really focus on that hard enough, and you really mean it, then you will start to find yourself spinning out of that trap cycle, that hamster wheel. You will observe that the future is usually imagined as either better or worse than the present, right? If the imagined future is better, it gives you hope or pleasurable anticipation. If it is worse, it creates anxiety. Both are illusory. Through self-observation, more presence comes into your life automatically. When you deal with the now presence, then you have more self-awareness. You know what I'm saying? You'll have more truth. You'll be able to have more identification into, what your shortcomings are. The moment you realize you are not present, you are present. The moment you realize that you are lost and trapped in time, then you start to snap back into the now. Whenever you are able to observe your mind, you are no longer trapped in it. Once you are able to identify that there's that other part of you that you no longer want to deal with, that evil in you, then your God energy is going to start to get a little bit of movement, traction. Be present as the watcher of your mind, of your thoughts and emotions, as well as your reactions in various situations. Be at least as interested in your reactions as in the situation or person that causes you to react. Again, you know what I'm saying? And I think I was mentioning this in the last podcast that wasn't in reference to this book specifically, because that wasn't the topic. The topic was maturity, right? So yeah, when you are able to really look at your true self and notice your consistent reactions, you'll start to be in that now state. Notice also how often your attention is in the past or future. Don't judge or analyze what you observe. Don't beat yourself up. Just call it for it is what it is, because beating yourself up goes into that feeling of, pity. And you don't want pity. You just want to be honest. Watch the thought. Feel the emotion. Observe the reaction. Don't make a personal problem out of them. You will then feel something more powerful than any of those things that you observe. The still, observing presence itself behind the content of your mind, the silent watcher. It's like basically, if you see somebody else and you can notice their problems and don't, be all malicious and rude about telling them what their problem is, do that in the aspects of looking at who you really are in your daily interactions and encounters. You know what I'm saying? Instead of judging yourself, just be honest about who that person is that walks in your everyday footsteps. You know what I'm saying? And that's when you looking into that self of morality, of authenticity. Identification with the mind gives it more energy. Observation of the mind withdraws energy from it. Identification with the mind creates more time lost. You lost moments. Now, you know what I'm saying? You're bored. Observation of the mind opens up the dimension of the timeless. The energy that is withdrawn from the mind turns into presence. Learn to use time in the practical aspects of your life. We may call this clock time, but immediately return to present moment awareness when those practical matters have been dealt with. When you have to deal with, let's say, your 9 to 5 or whatever, like that's clock time. When you deal with, chores or whatever, like that's clock time. You know what I'm saying? And those are important. And even in that time, you should be in the present moment of accomplishment and duty. You know what I'm saying? And if you are honorable in that, then the time is going, that moment is going to value even greater than, the common factor. Clock time is not just making an appointment or planning a trip. It includes learning from the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over. Right? When you deal with this clock time and you spaced out as opposed to dealing with the now and just playing little kid, disappear games, you're going to wind up in a repeat cycle of the same problem manifesting itself, and that's because it was never truly dealt with and understood. So if it's not truly dealt with and understood, it just rides that hamster wheel that I talk about. And like I was saying, with practical matters, those are accomplishments, but even in that time, you deal with every moment within that practical time. You still deal with the moments, the small interactions or the information exchange back and forth, or in regards to the work or the appreciation and value that someone else gives, but don't focus on the gratification. Focus on the moment of accomplishment. Settling goals and working towards them. Again, let's go over. Clock time is not just making an appointment or planning a trip. It includes learning from the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over. Setting goals and working towards them. Predicting the future by means of patterns and laws, physical, mathematical, and so on, learned from the past and taking appropriate action on the basis of our predictions. But even here, within the sphere of practical living, right? So it's basically saying, like, when you start living by things that, or ideas of hope, like, you're not really in the now. And even, within the practical moment, when you are thinking of, let's say, for instance, oh man, I can't wait to get off of work, but you just got there. When you walk into work and you automatically state of what, you want to do in the future, then you get trapped into that hamster wheel. That time thing is going to move a whole lot slower, because then you're already thinking about something that has never come. And through thinking about something that has never come, then those inches are going to wind up moving like a snail, because you're not focusing on the now and you focusing on the future. You focusing on something that ain't happened. So the now never really happens. It just kind of drags. It drags because you're not putting any attention to it. All right, let's continue where we were. Any lesson from the past becomes relevant and is applied now. Any planning as well as working towards achieving a particular goal is done now. So again, if you focus on the now in your work day and your accomplishments are going to wind up speeding the aspect of time, if you want to call it that, because since you're always in the now, then that clock winds up not being a factor, and then every now leads you closer to where you're going to be. The enlightened person's main focus of attention is always the now. Anyone that is in the highest level of thought beyond future past is in the now, but they are still peripherally aware of time. Like, you could be enlightened and still be within the aspects of time, but always thinking about the now. You know what I'm saying? We got 24 hours in a day, so day and night, that's gonna come and go. That's just common, earth physics, or astrological physics, and pertaining to, the earth realm. You know what I'm saying? But there's so many moments within that day, or that 24 hours, or that 1,440 minutes. Remember that? If you set yourself a goal and work toward it, you are using clock time. You are aware of where you want to go, but you honor and give your fullest attention to the step that you are taking at this moment. I think I just mentioned that. If you focus more on the accomplishment than the time it's going to take, then, you working within clock time, but you more present into the moment than the clock time. The clock time is just what it is for those that choose to be aware of it for whatever they think for it to be, which is a trap. If you then become excessively focused on the goal, perhaps because you are seeking happiness, fulfillment, or a more complete sense of self in it, the now is no longer honored. It becomes reduced to a mere stepping stone to the future with no intrinsic value. Clock time then turns into psychological time. Your life's journey is no longer an adventure, just an obsessive need to arrive, to attain, to make it. You no longer see or smell the flowers by the wayside either, nor are you aware of the beauty and the miracle of life that unfolds all around you when you are in the present, when you are present in the now. If you're doing a task just to, do it and get it over with, and don't really fulfill the idea of accomplishment, you're still trapped in the aspect of time. Every time you have a sense of accomplishment to fulfill, you're always frustrated by the fact that you have to assert yourself to the task, and it's burdensome. It's not looked at as a great value or honor. You know what I'm saying? So then you're sulking, you're sullen, you're not happy. You know what I'm saying? Because when that that task is done, you know what I'm saying, then you're like, oh man, it's over. Now I'm gonna go out and party, have a few beers with the buddies and all that. Then, Monday come back around if it's the weekend, and then it's like, oh man, it's only Monday. Friday's never gonna get here. Right, of course not. You know what I'm saying? Because you so trapped into not fulfilling, the accomplishments and being able to be enlightened by asserting the completion of these accomplishments. Trapped, hamster wheel, lost, zombified, never happy, always dissatisfied, always fidgety, always there's never any no plan, no they can't label a goal. You're not committed into specific hobbies. You know what I'm saying? You just a bunch of I don't know, or I'm bored, or man, life sucks. No, you suck. And the reason why you suck is because you're not now. You're past. Or you ain't even happened yet. You know what I'm saying? Because if you passed and you ain't happened yet, that's what makes you like really uninteresting. Because people are interested in what's happening more now than what happened yesterday, even though that's just a part of history and supposed to be a lesson plan moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Not a forever existence of what used to be. So we're going to stop right there. And moving deeply into the now. Tomorrow, if we remember, we're going to start on the title within the chapter, The Insanity of Psychological Time. They're going to break down the psychology part, how you psychologically kill yourself within this concept of time and past and future and not present. You know what I'm saying? If you ain't aware of the present, trust me, you in the past or in the future. Don't let anybody fool you with that, hoodwink game or that bamboozle. Because if you can't accomplish the now, you may not be honest, but trust me. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of references that's going to back this up. But for a fact, if you ain't able to deal with the now, focused on the now, able to move forward from the now, you are past or future, a has been or never been yet. And that's not trying to minimize you. Your actions tell, what you think of yourself. I just observe and, you know what I'm saying, call the plays from what I see on the sideline. You know what I'm saying? But there's no personal interest or attack. You know, that's the whole thing with sideline reporting when you're looking at sports. Like, there's supposed to be no personal affiliation, just basically what you see and logically makes sense according to what you know. So again, this is chapter 3, part 1, The Power of Now. This is your neighborhood Sensei Fouché. And here we learning, man. We learning together. Like, I'm really impressed on how much I'm able to understand through reading and being able to share and break this down, because, you know, in past days, I was a dummy. And when I thought I knew, I was a dummy. And even now, when I think I know, I'm still a dummy. You know what I'm saying? But I'm constant in my research. You know what I'm saying? And when things start to line up in consistency and I start to radiate into the highest level of being in the now, because to, you know, the next 5 minutes, there'll be another heightened feeling beyond that. But again, I'm Sensei Fouché, and we could keep running our mouths, you know, into the next nows. You know what I'm saying? But tomorrow is another moment to make the now into the current day. So again, I'm going to just tell you all, be smooth and continue to love yourself. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't love yourself, then really think about how bad you want to love yourself. And that's all I got for now. 1.